Helldivers II, EDF 4.1, but with more freedom. No. Helldivers 2, Starship Troopers, the game. No. Helldivers 2, Game of the Year. Why? Well, one simple answer. Passion. Okay, obviously, there's more than just that, but that's probably the simplest answer. Helldivers 2 just seems to fill in the gaps that so many AAA games can't. Let's start with the atmosphere. Now, first of all, I just want to say that this game looks great, but pure graphics alone aren't what actually make a game good. I mean, for example, in Lethal Company, you can't count your character's individual ball hairs, but the game is still great.
Landmine.
Oh, landmine over there.
I mean, it seems no matter where I am in the world of Helldivers 2, there are little details and features just waiting to be discovered. Take your ship, for example. When you teleport to a new planet, or complete an FTL jump, as the game calls it, an actual cutscene plays. Not some fade to black or some stupid loading screen, an actual cutscene with sound design and everything.
Initiating FTL jump to the Astano system.
They even went so far as to put in a robotic voice that pronounces every single planet name wrong. I mean, who in their right mind would call it Osha-Une? It's clearly spelled Oshwane. Anyways, the NPCs scattered across your ship also have unique dialogue, sometimes commenting on the recent battle after you arrive. They also have prompts where you can talk to them and they'll talk about their field, like building the termicide or why won't the automatons just accept their freedom. And then when you finally make it to the ground, the atmosphere is still there. Explosions will distort and warp both the audio and the camera. When you first land, your Helldiver comes out of the pod optimistic and ready, but as soon as reality sets in, they're quickly screaming their commands, making you feel expendable and just like a cog in the machine. You're not some super soldier operator with 1 million lives and access to the entire United States military budget for one mission. You're a normal soldier. Well, as normal as it can get dropping onto alien planets, but anyways. The game also has a semi-realistic damage system. For example, when you get shot, if you get hit in the arm, your recoil increases, or if you get hit in the leg, you run slower, can't run. And the same applies for bugs. You can shoot them from certain angles that can destroy their armor or expose their weak spots. Everything in the game doesn't feel put together or rushed. Everything just feels like it has an added layer of detail. When people see the words live service plastered next to the name of a video game, their gag reflexes instantly start going, because they know it's gonna mean unfinished bugs, day one patches, $1 million skins, and battle passes. But Helldivers 2 has all this, and does it right. First of all the battle pass skins are free and in-universe, so there's no Spider-Man skibbity toilet dropping onto Hellmire. It's an in-universe soldier. And second of all the credits needed for the battle pass are obtainable on the ground. You only pay money for them if you want to. And this is probably the only live service game where the devs laugh when players say it's full of bugs and bots. Look, I'm sorry I had to. The final aspect of this specific live service that makes it just amazing, the cherry on top, is probably Joel. So basically, during the game, when you capture different planets, that's not just random or scripted or anything like that. There's actually a game master, sort of a god, if you will. His name's Joel. He's the one who chooses which planets to attack. He's the one who sends out major orders. And he also releases content in a really unique way. So while most games would bring out like a trailer and like a pay us your money please, instead what Joel does is he'll join into random people's game lobbies, join up with their squad, and drop them unreleased content, such as the LAV, the mech, and all sorts of other stuff. Occasionally, the game master will also give your squad extra stratagems. So he might give you a mission stratagem of an Eagle 500 kilogram bomb, even if no one on your team has it. And in my opinion, I think this is how you do a live service properly. But enough yapping about how good the game feels and how good it looks. What about the actual gameplay? Well, before we deploy, let's get used to our ship, as this is where you'll be spending a lot of your time. First, we have the hangar, and then heading up the stairs, we can meet 2 NPCs, each with various areas behind them. Here's the first area we'll explore, the Patriotic Administration Center. Here, you can see where you are, what the faction owning that planet is, your destroyer's name, and various other statistics. In the ship module, you can upgrade different areas of your ship to be more powerful, and the affecting stratagems are listed in the bottom right. Now you might be wondering, what is a stratagem? Essentially, it's a buff or a weapon that you can call in during a match via a laser that will deploy onto the ground, and you can pick it up and use it to your advantage. And I will quickly rank all of them in a very quick but not very quick tier list. Alright, first up we have not available tier. Here are 2 mission stratagems that are really not possible to be ranked, but I'm trying my best to rank every single one. So here we go. First, we have the seismic probe, which, I'm gonna be real, is just a fancy drill. And second of all is the illumination flare, which is only available in that weird side game called Stratagem Hero. But it's not available in any of the matches, which is kind of weird. Alright, next up we got F tier, and starting us off is the ballistic backpack in the backpacks category. Now, I think this screenshot describes it best. And the other 2 stratagems in this category are the Eagle and Orbital Smoke Strikes respectively. I'm sorry, but I swear there is no use for smoke in this game. Alright, now we're expanding up to E tier. Now, first up, we have the spear, which is in the weapons category. Now, I like the spear, but I think it'd be way better if it just wasn't broken. Like, I swear, half the time I try and use it, it just, doesn't work for some reason. Next up, we have the Tesla Tower. Just why? There are so many better ones. And that's honestly the theme for most of the other stratagems in this category. For example, the orbital gas and EMS strikes are both just bad because you're taking all the amazement of an orbital strike and just either doing little or no damage with it. The only benefit is the EMS slows down its enemies. And finally, we have the 380mm barrage. I swear to God, the only people who use this will call it in when they see one scavenger and end up team killing and destroying half the planet, except for where they called it in. It is so inaccurate and just has random big explosions. It is only good for ambience, because running through explosions equals cool. Then, moving up to D tier, we start getting into stratagems that are just good enough to use, but I still wouldn't really recommend it. Now, starting off in the weapons tier, we have the heavy machine gun. In my opinion, it's just the worst of the 3 machine guns. Though it has a high damage, its firepower and ammo count just really doesn't make up for it. The shield generator relay it's alright, but I prefer the backpack because to put the generator down, you need to have a space where you're defending, so it's only really good on those missions where you just deploy into a small area and try and kill as many as you can. But it's also really only good against bots because if they come in, they still shoot you, but they can't shoot you from outside. But Terminids don't really shoot you, so they just sort of walk in and kill you anyways. Next, we have the 120mm barrage. This is like the slightly better version of the 380mm. It's a slightly more controlled area, which means slightly less team kills. Overall, it's slightly better, but both of them are really not that great, as I rarely end up getting any kills with them. And finally, we have the Eagle Napalm Strike. As fun as incendiary builds and fire, as we'll talk about later in the tier list, is, I find the Napalm Strike just really doesn't hit. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's cool to look at, but in terms of damage and firepower, It's more about the spectacle than the actual damage. Next up, C tier. First up in the backpacks category, we have the jump pack and the ballistic rover. Now, first of all, the jump pack is just like a jetpack idea, but worse. It's just not that great. And the ballistic rover is just like the rover, but worse because it has finite amount of ammo and not an infinite amount of ammo. Next up, the weapons in this category, we have the machine gun, which is a good starting weapon, but realistically, it won't get you super far in the end game, and I would recommend switching to something else pretty soon after. But it's good for start off. We also have the anti-material rifle, which is just a worse version of the autocannon. The grenade launcher, which I find myself almost never using, as it has very limited ammo and very limited damage. I only find myself doing well when I spray and pray into a large group of enemies. And finally, the railgun. There were some nerfs that were kind of controversial about it, but overall, I'd say in its current state, it's just not really worth it. We also have the machine gun sentry and rocket sentry respectively. In my opinion, there are just better versions of both of these in higher tiers. And same with the mines, both incendiary and non. I would just recommend using something else. The orbital walking barrage is alright, but like with most things, just use something else. And finally, the Eagle 110mm rocket pods, which are just a slightly worse version of the Gatling barrage. Alright, and finally, we've made it to the good part of the tier list, where I'm not just yapping about the worst weapons in the game. B tier. Now, from here on up, these are stratagems that I'd say I use fairly often. First up, we have the expendable anti-tank and recoilless rifle. Now, they're essentially the same because the expendable anti-tank does a higher damage, but you only get 2 shots, whereas the recoilless rifle does a little less damage, but you get 5 dots. It's a pretty even trade-off in my opinion. Same with the Quasar and laser cannon. They're both very similar in the fact that they're both laser-powered weapons, but the Quasar shoots a short burst, whereas the normal laser cannon shoots a continuous laser. Next is the EMS mortar, which is sort of a worse version of a mortar, but with one major upside. See, the EMS mortar doesn't kill enemies. Instead, it just slows them down, making it unable for them to move. So, you compare this with a regular mortar and have it be impossible for your enemies to go almost anywhere without getting hit by the mortar. Next up, we have orbital strikes. The normal precision strike is pretty good and is also one of the first stratagems you get. It's overall just an all-round decent weapon. The airburst strike is very similar to it, but instead of firing one singular shot, it fires 3 shots. The Gatling burst is also pretty good, and same with the Gatling strike from the Eagle. And also in this category is the Eagle rearm, because I needed to put it somewhere, and I honestly find it sort of useful. Moving on to our penultimate ranking, we have A tier. Starting us off in the backpacks, we have the shield generator. Honestly, it's hard to find a clip of someone not using this, except for me, because I haven't unlocked it. But that's besides the point. It's honestly an amazing backpack and a great tool to have. The laser rover. One of the best weapons for friendly fire. Seriously, the amount of clips I see online of this thing will just take out an entire team by accident because of its targeting system. The friendly fire is definitely real in this game. The supply pack. Essentially, this is just a better version of the resupply that you can carry on your back and give to your teammates. And honestly, the only reason I would recommend this over the resupply is most maps you're mobile, so it can be very useful to resupply you and your teammate. Moving on to weapons, we have 2. First of all, is probably one of my favorite weapons in the game, the autocannon. I don't even know where to start with explaining how amazing this weapon is. It has a 10-round magazine and shoots high explosive rounds at very far distances, and is essentially a way better version of the anti-material rifle. It can shred through most lightly and medium armored things, and does significant damage against more armored enemies such as Chargers and Bile Titans by hitting them in the weak spots. It is truly one of the best weapons in this game, and I would definitely recommend using it. Its only real downside is if you ever try and use it at close range, you will be on the receiving end of that explosion. Also in this tier, we have the arc thrower, another amazing weapon. But that's the problem. It's amazing in terms of damage. It will chain between enemies, even friendlies, but it just feels so annoying to use. Like, when you shoot with another gun, there's like a crisp bang and the recoil, but the arc thrower doesn't have any of that. It sort of just goes like bzzzt and doesn't really feel like you're doing damage. They could literally make it one-shot everything, but in its current state, I still won't use it because it just doesn't feel like it's doing anything. We only have one emplacement, and it's the Gatling Sentry, which is essentially just an automatic minigun that locks onto targets. We also have an Orbital Strike, which is the Rail Cannon Strike, a single powerful shot that will lock on to the most damaging enemy in the area, and the Eagle Cluster Strike, which is also one of the lead causes of friendly fire. Finally, we have the Resupply, which is a mission stratagem that you call in and, unsurprisingly, gives you ammo. And finally, you've made it through the longest yapping session on this channel yet. S-tier stratagems. Starting us off, we have the Stalwart, the best machine gun in the game. It has 250 rounds to send down range at an incredible speed, as well as high damage and low recoil. It's probably one of my most used weapons. Next up, we have the Flamethrower, which, as I mentioned earlier, is part of an incendiary build. Essentially, you run incendiary grenades, the incendiary break shotgun, and the Flamethrower. And I think the Flamethrower is the most crucial part. The only downside of the Flamethrower is that you get paranoid schizophrenia because every time you see your screen flash red, you immediately spam press the Alt key to dive, even if it's not a fire. But anyways, we also have 3 emplacements. The Autocannon Sentry, which is a zero recoil version of the autocannon that you call down and does insane damage. The Mortar Sentry, which can lock onto enemies almost halfway across the map. And the HMG emplacement, which is a human-controlled heavy machine gun. In orbital strikes, we have the laser, which is a powerful laser weapon that immediately targets the most dangerous enemy in the area, the Eagle airstrike and Eagle 500 kilogram bomb respectively. And the only one in this category so far in the game, a vehicle, the mech. I just had to put it in S tier. Okay, it's not really that good against the bots, especially on higher levels, but having a Gatling gun and 14 missiles to shoot up bugs and watch them absolutely explode is worth an S tier rank. Finally, we have some mission stratagems. The SOS, which has saved me more times than I'd like to admit. The reinforcement, which is honestly amazing. You can get more Helldivers diving. The Hell Bomb, which has caused multiple friendly fire issues, as well as blown up many automaton bases. The SSD delivery, which is essentially like Amazon. And the upload data, which is essentially like Starlink. Finally, we have the best stratagem in this entire tier list, the Flag of Super Earth.